today, Dominguez, he's the city engineer for the city of Vermillion. I'm sure plenty of you know who he is already, and he gets the privilege to talk to us today about the city of Vermillion streetscape and how the new streetscape downtown is going. So, round of applause for Jose. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys. As my introduction said, I am the city engineer. I've been working in Vermillion for about 12 years now. And this is a very big project for the city and very big deal for me. I'm very proud of it. And it's something to hopefully make Vermillion proud for many years to come. So I'm going to start. I guess the way that I was going to be approaching this presentation was I was going to have a map of the entire project, what we were going to be doing or what we're doing. I was going to go briefly over that, and then I was going to hit some key points regarding the schedule and the costs and some of the issues that we have experienced throughout the project. And hopefully at the end of that, then we have a brief opportunity for some questions, if there's any, which I'm sure there will not be. So I will just continue. So as I mentioned, this year, yep, there's some else. So obviously, this would be Dakota Street over in this side, and then you have Market on the other side over there. Main Street's running from right to left on this map. As we have already progressed through the project, we have essentially done the entire south side of Main Street. And when I say done, I want to say it's probably about 95% done. There's some amenities that have to still be placed, some shrubbery or some plantings, and some of the benches still need to be installed. But for the majority, everything on the south side of Main is completed. On the side streets, we are working right now on the west side of Market. The east side is done. And we have started the saw cutting or completed the saw cutting on the west side of Court as well. And we have some patching to do on the east side of Court. But otherwise, everything down there is, for the majority, everything that you see that has a sidewalk is done. If it doesn't have a sidewalk, it will be done, and it's torn open. It should be done before D-Days. We're really pushing for the contractor to be done by Friday, the 1st. So everything on the north side, with the exception of the intersection over here by Court Trust, is being worked on, like this block here where Maloney's is. Again, that should be all done by D-Days. And right after D-Days is done, literally the following Monday, we're going to tear everything that's left apart and just finish it before snow flies. So hopefully it doesn't come till middle of November. But and I'll have this map, so towards the end, if there's any particular questions, we can go to it. So the original schedule. This was set up by the contractor when we started the project back in March. We actually met with the contractor. He came up with this glorious schedule, and it's very, flowery. This is all of his great expectations. If the world was perfect, this is the way that it would have happened. He would have just had 3 weeks on each section, and he would have been done. He would have had everything is working perfectly in this plan here. And that's the way that, to him, the world was just great. And you can see here, he was going to be having, Main Street was going to be done September 3rd. We were all very elated about that. He was going to have, I think, 4 or 5 concrete crews working. I'm telling you, when he said this, we all almost passed out because we were just happy about it. And then after Main Street was being done, completed by September 3rd, he was going to do Court and Market right after that, and everything was going to be done by Halloween. Well, the project starts. And as soon as it starts, the first thing that and I don't have them in order of occurrence, but one of the first things that we notice is that the slope next to the sidewalks. So this is what's called a transition area. You have the existing buildings with their, thank you, with their finished floor elevations already, and we also have curb and gutter. Curb and gutter is already set. We're not removing all the curb and gutter for financial reasons. So what happens is that we have to meet ADA standards for the sidewalk. Curb and gutter is set, so we have this piece there that we call a transition area, which is the charcoal piece in our project. In that space there, there's no guidelines or criteria to be met. We have to essentially make our own. Once we figured out that there were some issues or concerns, I should say, as far as the slope, the bid board met and we came up with a standard. So after that was addressed, then that created a financial, we have to pay for that change, which I'll kind of touch briefly in the following slide. The next thing that we found were window wells. So when we first started the project, we had, oops, all right. When we first started the project, we passed out a letter and we met with some of the property owners, and we met with our pizza. All of those blue dots that you see there, all of those are window wells in court. You also have one here on the beam that we were aware of, and then Mays here had a whole wall that was essentially underneath the sidewalk on Prospects, and then a window well on Main. Besides that, we had nobody else from the community explained to us that they had window wells. So the contractor starts digging around, and lo and behold, we found so far 10 window wells in there. Each of those window wells is roughly, depending on the size, you're talking somewhere between $10,000 $15,000 increase, and we have to address the window well before we continue further. So each of those window wells adds time to the schedule. And then we also found on one of those, the secret ones that we didn't know about, we also found a section of the basement wall that was actually caving into the basement. So we had to, at that point, it's not only the city wanting to make sure it's fixed for the sidewalk and the pedestrians, we also have to talk to the property owner that you have to fix that, otherwise the building could collapse, I don't know. So that's a big item. We also started finding lead water lines. Yep, nobody likes to drink lead or eat paint chips. So that's why we have to address these and talk to some of the property owners regarding what can be done to fix that. We've been lucky, and even though we found 5, we've already probably replaced about 30 services or moved the services to curb stops. So that would be actually a low number. And some of these lead lines, if the city doesn't disturb it, then we leave the property owner, we make the property owner aware. If the lead is not disturbed, then technically speaking, it's safe because it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Nobody touched the lead portion of it. But as soon as we touch it, then it becomes a problem. It needs to be changed. We need to address it at that point. But again, each of those requires us to talk to the property owner, and it poses another possibility of delaying the project. Materials, that was a huge problem at the very beginning. Even though the contractor had the contract awarded to him back in March, when he started the project in April, a lot of the suppliers were not bringing in all the materials that he needed. So he started ripping out water mains and valves and streets, and he didn't have the materials available just because there were delays in the shipping. It wasn't the contractor that ordered it late, it's just that there were none to be found. So the way that we address that is that, at least for a lot of the water main portion, was that we, the city, supplied all the materials just to keep the project going, and then we made very sure that the contractor was aware that we were keeping a tally of this, and he was going to be giving us in kind. We didn't want the money, we actually wanted the valve, the curb stop, the section of pipe, whatever was being replaced, we wanted it from whatever he was getting. And that has not been a problem at all. So that's working out just fine for now. And I would say that if we've given them 100 things, we've already have 98 of them back, because there's still some issues with some of the materials. We also ran into issues, well, this doesn't work very well, as far as the lead times on some of the bigger items like the lights and the precast pieces. Usually those might be weeks, maybe 4-week lead time from ordering. We were running into maybe 4 to 5 months. So that's why on Main Street on the south side, you notice that we took out a lot of the lights. Well, the expectation is, or was, that we were going to take out the lights, and maybe 2 months later, we were going to have the lights up. Well, we started taking lights out, and then we didn't have anything to put in there because they were just, I think they were stuck in Chicago waiting for a truck for about 3 months. And then the latest issue that we have run into is this lien that one of the subcontractors placed on the contractor. So unlike a private property project between an owner and a contractor, if the contractor doesn't get paid, they can actually put a mechanic's lien on the property. Well, in this instance, they don't have that ability because they can't put a lien on public right-of-way. So what they do is that they do, I think it's called a public infrastructure lien. And essentially, the subcontractor is asking the city to set aside a certain amount of money to be paid directly, rather than paying the contractor and who pays the subcontractor. The subcontractor is wanting to payment directly to them from the city. But there's a whole legal process to go through. And that alone has caused a lot of issues. I would say almost as much as materials being delayed. We've had issues with subcontractors not wanting to complete items that are typically associated with their trades. So some of them don't want to saw concrete because I don't want to saw concrete. It wasn't specifically written in there. Some of them are pulling, or I shouldn't say some, it's just one of them. He pulled his concrete crews for a week at a time, a couple times. That's why sometimes you would be driving down Main Street and beautiful day outside for a whole week straight, and nobody was working. Well, the subcontractor pulled his crew out, and we have no control over it. The prime was literally pulling his hair out one of the meetings. It was pretty scary to see. And then also, they've been asking additional payments for parts that are, again, typically associated with their trade that they're trying to complete. So we're working through this. Right now, the contractor is, he figured out that pretty quickly. That subcontractor is no longer working in the project, but we still have to work through that because of all the delays that caused. So what does that mean to the schedule? That great schedule that he started with, well, we found out right away, probably within the first 2 weeks, that it was no good. And now what we have been doing is we have a project meeting every week on Tuesdays at 10 in the morning. And at that meeting, the contractor tells us what he's going to be doing for that week. So we have literally been going on a week-by-week basis with a contractor, knowing that he has no idea if he's going to have contractors or supplies or materials towards the end of the week, or we just don't know what's going to happen. Even asphalt is becoming an issue. So right now, what we have essentially told the contractor is that everything, like I started the conversation tonight or today, is that everything that he has torn up today, he's going to have to be done with by Friday before D-Day, so the 1st. After that is set, then he is going to literally come on the 3rd, and he is just going to just blow through Main Street as far as the 2 blocks that are left. He's still going to be, he has to make conscious decisions as far as who needs to have access. He's been talking to all the property owners, or he's supposed to, Kelsey. But he's been talking to all the property owners, making sure that they have access to their properties and making sure that, if you have the dog groomer, let's say, that they have access, or the bars or the restaurants, water shutoffs, and we try and work with them. So we've been doing that. But the concessions that the city is going to have to do is that we have been trying to avoid having the contractor shut off too much of Main Street all at once, because there's a parking concern, and we don't want to remove 2 blocks of parking. So in this instance, just because, again, he's trying to get done by October 29th, usually when snow starts falling, temperature drops, and then you can get asphalt. We have a lot of asphalt patching. Contractor does not want to be here next year, so he wants to get this done this year. I want him to get done this year. I want this project done. And so we're going to have to work with him and make sure that the disruptions are worth the benefit that we're going to be getting which to me it does because I want the project to be done as soon as possible. But I'm cognizant of the fact that D-Days is a very big deal. So how is this being paid for and what is it costing? So, and I kind of rounded some numbers here, but the construction cost that we have with the contractor, based on the contract, the original one was at, roughly speaking, $2.9 million. We did have that change order for the transition areas, and that essentially brought up that was a change order of roughly $143,000. So now we're talking about $3.12 million total. So that there is going to get paid from city funds, the entire thing. And you're going to have the second penny is going to be taking the largest hit. That's going to be about $1.6 million. Then you have the city's general funds going to be, there's that COVID care that we got through the first installment, I'll call it that. $500,000 there. Then you have the STIP fund, which is the city's money that we use for transportation projects. So that one's going to be another $500,000. You have light and power paying for all the light, electric infrastructure improvements. And then you have the city storm sewer fund paying for a portion of it, $156,000 or so. You add all of that together, that comes up to these two numbers. After this is paid by the city, because this is part of a BID, a business improvement district, the way that what we have worked out is that the property owners adjacent to the project or within the, essentially within the business, the downtown business district, are going to pay for a portion of this project. Depending on where you are in relation to the project, then you will pay a certain amount that's essentially already set. So the BID district is going to be paying for, roughly speaking, $450,000. And then that there is going to be split between the property owners that are adjacent are going to pay $6,300 over 10 years. And if you're not adjacent to the project, then you will be paying $2,100 over 10 years. So that, for a business down on Main Street, then you would be paying every year $630. But at that point, the whole project's already paid for, so that there is going to be going to the city's fund to defray some of the original costs of the project. So I think I kind of blew through this fairly quickly, but I wanted to make sure that there was a little time for questions. I wasn't sure if there were any, but I wanted to leave that open. Yes?
I don't have a question, but I just have to say, with everything you've been through, and I'm sure there have been grouses and grumbles on the part of the people, I think it looks beautiful. And when you think about Vermillion being a Division I town with a Division I university, we were badly in need of a facelift. Downtown was looking pretty dull, and so thank you.
Thank you.
Will you be retiring November 1st?
No. I've retired. I'm actually 84. Yeah?
Jose, I just recently wrote through this all that you're in the grading and color. You know, it's over. We put them in asphalt?
No, some of the, it looks really thick. There's actually concrete underneath. We actually, down Main Street and a lot of streets in Vermillion are actually maybe about 6 or 7 inches of concrete, and there's a 2-inch asphalt lift on top of that. So what you see is that thickness. The asphalt that we're going to put back it's 6 inches thick. We're not putting any concrete just for expediency. But yeah, it's going to be 6 inches thick, and they'll do that in 2 lifts, 2 3-inch lifts. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jose, I really like the streetlights that have been put up so far. I've noticed the ones by the post office. They really look elegant, but I've not been downtown at night. So is there a cover on the top of those streetlights so the light doesn't shine up into the?
No, there's no cover. They are acorn style, so there's no lid, if you want to call it that. But the acorns have reflectors that shine the light down onto the sidewalk or to the street area. But no, there's no cover to avoid the glare
They really look nice. That was a nice addition.
Thanks. I was dubious about those, but yeah, I'll take the credit if you like it. Vanessa?
Yes, I just was wanting to know a little bit about you and your history. If you could share just a little bit for us to get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, I guess I've been working for the city for 12 years. Prior to that, I worked for a consultant in Michigan, and I worked with them for 3 years. And I essentially graduated, I know, from SDSU in 2001. Yeah, I've learned to live with it. But once I graduated, then I have been moving quite a bit into different different consulting firms. I usually work for about 3 years with a consultant, and it's not that I really got bored, and part of it is the consultant word, at least in engineering firms, is that if you're really good at one thing, that is what you're going to be doing for the rest of the time, and I just got bored. So it just so happened that when I worked in Michigan, my last stop, I got laid off in one of the economic downturns in 2009, and there was an opening with the city. So I applied. I thought it was going to be a long shot, and apparently I convinced the right people. And I started working with the city, and I have not been burnt out yet. I don't think I will, but everything every day is different, which I really enjoy. And I like the challenges, and I like talking to people. So I find it very refreshing and entertaining, and I find it fun. So, but yeah.
Would you say that as a city manager was a success?
No. Yeah.
So we were originally told at the bank that there weren't enough funds to do the west side on Elm Street, and I see on the map you have here it shows the west side of Elm Street. I just wasn't sure if that was.
Well, so this year,
Yep,
that is going to be done with this project.
okay.
So what we're not going to do, though, is further north of there. So the alleyway is actually right here. So this year is not going to be done.
Oh, okay.
But we're going to do the bump out in that intersection. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Is there a next big project with the city that you're working on?
Well,
Is it top secret?
it's not top secret. Let's just say that I have called this 2021 as the year that I tried to bankrupt the city. So I need to make conscious decisions as far as what projects and how much they're going to cost, and I have to be able to space them out unless they're necessary. But we do have the possibility of, we're actually going to start the process of maybe adding 2 new lift stations, replacing one and adding another one on the northeast part of town. And then along with that, it's for an industrial development. And along with that, then there's the possibility of extending roads. But between that lift station and the roads and all the associated utilities, you're talking about probably a $3.5 million project, which is great. We want the development and the growth, but all of this stuff takes money. And I mean, Vermillion is great, and we have a lot of opportunities, but we're still only this big, and a lot of people want things that are this big. So we have to be very careful on how we don't want to choke on something. And this year, I mean, between downtown Highway 50, that could be another meeting, or Bliss Point, which is another meeting. Between all of those, you're probably talking about $8 million, which is a lot of money. I'm sure John has lost sleep over that money, but yeah, so.
Well, the mayor, I suppose if I let him get the last question.
I just wanted to give Jose a huge amount of credit for really being, I mean, if you go downtown, I work downtown, so I see him down there every single day, out there. I mean, he's been super hands-on in this project and really willing to do a lot of problem solving as things come up, which we really appreciate. And I also want to give credit to our bid board. Really a lot of the planning and the aesthetics and the beautiful streetlights and things like that were because of this group of business owners and citizens
Okay. Well, go ahead, Ross.
Vermillion Community Theater thanks you and your family for coming to Vermillion.
Oh, thank you.
Round of applause.